Hey there neighbors, Kevin here with eTrailer, and today we're going to be taking a look at and showing you how to install the Blue Ox Trailer Hitch receiver here on a 2025 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited. Jeep Wranglers are synonymous with adventure, and to do those adventures you might need a couple of different add-on items for your vehicle. Now one of those is going to be the trailer hitch receiver, and that's going to open up your world to a variety of different things. That's going to allow you to carry that bike rack, get all those bikes on there, so when you're out on the trail you can actually ride around, have a cargo carrier so you can load up some extra camping equipment, or if you also get some wiring, it's going to allow you to tow a trailer behind you. Now there are a bunch of different options when it comes to trailer hitch receivers, but this one today is specifically the Blue Ox. Each one of these is pretty much the same thing. You realistically are just kind of looking at weight capacities and then any little add-ons. So like with our Blue Ox today, this one comes with a little tab already welded to it, so that way you can easily just add on a bracket and mount up your wiring and be all ready to go when you're towing that trailer. Now with that, there are different capacities. So when you're towing a trailer, you're going to have a 4,500 pound gross towing weight capacity with this trailer hitch, which is that force of you pulling the trailer. With the cargo carriers, your bike racks, you're going to have a 675 pound tongue weight capacity, and that's that downward force on the inside of our receiver tube. So along with those weight capacities, there's going to be some measurements that are pretty important. Now we are sitting on a lift that's going to add 8 inches to our overall measurements here, so we'll need to take that into account as well. Starting out with our ground clearance, we're sitting right at 30 inches, so if you subtract off that 8, that's going to put us at 22 inches, which is well above the minimum that we like to see of about 12 inches. With a Jeep, it's going to set a whole lot higher than your standard vehicles, so you usually don't have to worry about ground clearance. The other thing that you typically will have to worry about with a Jeep though is that you got this spare tire on the back, so what you're going to go for is the center of our hitch pin hole out to the furthest point, which is going to be the edge of our spare tire, which is sitting at right around 11 inches. So we are going to need some sort of extender for our hitch here, so that way we can throw on that ball mount, throw on the cargo carrier, or those bike racks. Now with that, that is going to reduce our overall capacity of our trailer hitch by 50%, so you do need to keep that in mind because now you're going to be leveraging that weight a lot further out. Now in order to tow anything or lock in an accessory, you're going to need a 5/8 inch hitch pin. And I just have a standard one here today, which you can easily pick up here as well, but I'd highly recommend switching over to one that is locking as well as anti-rattle if that is going to be an option for you. So that way you can avoid any kind of noise, any kind of movement here, which could potentially damage anything that you're hauling. And then just the locking aspect, so that way you don't have to worry about anybody taking off with your equipment here. Now if we are towing, we also are going to have some safety chains. So one thing I like to do is just kind of test each style. So we have our standard S-hook style, and then we also have our latching clevis. S-hook style, no problem with these loops. Sometimes you'll find some of the tow loops aren't really set up that great to where they could potentially bind, especially when you start using these clevis style hooks. But in our case today, this one is going the majority of the way. If it really flipped up like that, it might get pinched, but for the most part, you shouldn't really have any issues even using the larger clevis style. So now that we've gone over some of the specifics of our trailer hitch, why don't we go ahead and talk about the install. Like I've kind of referenced a little bit before, this is super easy. This is only 4 bolts going through the frame. It is a little bit time consuming just because it's little tight quarters, especially with the style of bumper we have a lot of metal kind of just blocking us. So you could take a little bit of extra time to drop your exhaust, maybe pull the bumper off. That's totally up to you though. Realistically, it's a lot more work to pull the bumper off and drop the exhaust versus just kind of sitting there and doing the little bit of turning you can with those bolts and nuts in the space that is available. So if this is something you feel like is just a little bit above your expertise, definitely feel free to use our dealer locator, and you can enter in your zip code to find a shop near you and get it professionally installed. If you are wanting to do this yourself, then stick around and I'll help walk you through the process. So to begin our install, we are going to have 2 bolts that are running through our frame beam right here, and those are going to be running into some weld nuts. Now, we're going to be using an 18mm ratcheting wrench. That's going to be the easiest way to get this off. That way you don't have to lower the exhaust. If you wanted to use an impact and get them off, that's fine, just there's not really much clearance. So you would have to lower the exhaust, which would entail getting to each one of the rubber isolators, which you can see there's one right here, most likely one right on the other side as well. And then from there, there's another one right in front of the axle on the driver's side. Just make sure that you are putting some kind of strap or something to support your exhaust if you do end up lowering that. In our case, I'm just going to go with the ratcheting wrench and do it by hand. I almost got this first one loose enough to pull out. There we go. Pull it straight out. Set that aside and we'll get our other one out. All right, we can set that one aside. Now we're going to grab a pry bar. There's this little bracket up in here. It's just kind of pinched up against it. We'll pop that off and get that to come down, but I do kind of want to double check. Sometimes you run into little variances between different models, and there might be a screw or something else that's going into it, so always good to just double check, make sure that there isn't anything else attached to it before you start prying on it. So I'm just working my pry bar between the back side of this bracket and then the frame. If you just kind of wiggle it and you can start prying down just a tiny bit. Get it to come out. There we go. Set that aside. Now in our case, our Wrangler came with factory wiring, but unfortunately that's going to block us from getting our hitch in place. So we're going to have to get a different mount to go to our trailer hitch, which in our case, the Blue Ox does come with a little tab on it already, so we can get a bracket that's going to match up and allow us to hook up our factory wiring here. But in the meantime, I'm going to get these out of the way. One other thing you should do is just take one of your bolts, try running it through each one of the holes here and seeing if it's going to get caught. Some of them, it's a little tight. I'm going to go in there with a rounded file and just kind of clean it out a little bit more. But I had two of them go perfect, two of them not. So this one right here, bolt doesn't want to come through, slid right through on this one. Doesn't want to on this one. I have not been able to test this one yet. So let's pop this over. Or actually, I did test this one. Never mind. That one is through. So it should be just this one here that I need to fight, and we'll get that filed out. Okay, so I wanted to just kind of go over it just in case anybody didn't know exactly what I was talking about before. So I sat here with the file and essentially just put it through like I was going to put the bolts in. Got it on in there, and then I used my other finger to kind of help control what part of it I was filing against. And essentially, it's just this side of the hole isn't as wide. So you had to take just a tiny bit out. I mean, it took me maybe a couple minutes, and we're all good to go with some really light filing. But now we need to start getting our hardware ready. There's going to be 4 bolts just like this guy. We're going to have a washer we're going to slide onto this. This is going to slip through the back side here. We'll have our hitch in place, so there's going to be the plate of our hitch that's going to be on the back, the plate that's running up over through the front. Have our bolts come through, and then there's going to be some flange nuts that we're going to be putting on this side up against our hitch. So I'm going to get all that kind of in place. Now, hitch is going to be a little bit of a fight. I've kind of tried to test fit it. May have to give it a couple gentle nudges with our rubber mallet just to get it fully up there, because you can see I'm kind of pinching right now and just trying to push up. So I'm going to get that ready. I might even just grab a tranny jack and use that to help kind of push and stabilize this as we push up. If you don't have one of those at home, just revert back to hitting it with the rubber mallet and you should be able to get it in place. All right, tranny jack's doing a pretty good job of pushing this up. We're starting to get to a point where it's kind of catching. You can see this side's catching more than the other. Also got a little bit of a fight with the wiring there. Let's get this pushed up a bit more. There we go. And now we're starting to lift up on the suspension. So that tells me that we're all the way up on one side, but not on this side yet. Let's see if our holes line in. Our holes are slotted on the back here, so we probably could get through. Let's get one of our bolts and a flat washer and we can test this out. Yeah, we are not popping through just yet, so let's give it a couple love taps. Still not. Let's see what we're getting. Maybe I'm a little too high at this point. I'm gonna try and get some of the other ones in first. I know I'm not catching the front here perfectly, but I also don't wanna whack on this too much and have it move too far off and fall off my tranny jack here on me. So let's see what else we can get in and go from there. Yep, I am too high. I'm about a 1/4 inch too high. I can feel the tip of the bolt with my finger going through the hole now. So let's drop this down gently. Having the bolts go through on the backside is kind of help holding this up, but you still want to be careful that you don't have it just fully drop off on you. All right, now we're a little bit too much to the left. Almost there. All right, I've got to a point where this side all the way on the other end is fully through, nice and loose. This side's a little bit tighter. It's still kind of pinching a little bit, but I was able to get the bolt through. I don't want to go all the way through though yet because I do have to get these flange nuts on. We've got a very limited amount of space. So we'll get that on there. Might take my gloves off just so I get a better feel of this, but we want to get our finger to hold that up, and then we can push the bolt through and tighten the bolt by spinning it from the back side. Get it onto the nut fully. Not always the easiest. Sometimes a magnet stick is the better option over your finger just to kind of keep it there. All right, so I've been using a 19mm ratcheting wrench to just kind of spin the bolt while also holding the flange nut at the edge there, so that way it would thread into it. This one fight me a little bit more just because it is pinching a little bit onto the bolt with our trailer hitch going through the frame here. We're going to get our other ones in place, and I'm going to do the same thing, just kind of getting them started. We don't need to fully tighten them down yet. I just want to make sure each bolt is actually going to fit in place, and then we can actually start tightening them down. All right, I've got all 4 bolts in right now. Now, this is just a test for us today. I am going to be taking this back off later on, so I'm not going to be putting the Loctite red on like they do recommend. You'll even see it right here on your hitch. The sticker, the second little bullet point that they have says use Loctite red. So if you are putting this on and keeping it on, make sure that you do go ahead and throw some on there. And that's not, unfortunately, going to be included with the kit, so you will have to pick that up separate. But right now I'm just coming back. I've got a 19mm wrench on both the nut and onto the bolt itself too, and I'm using a ratcheting one on the bolt side so that way I can easily just tighten it all down. I'm going to go through all 4 of these, and then once we're done we can end up torquing them too. Now unfortunately there is a little metal guard kind of blocking me from being able to get the wrench in on the inner ones, so I wanted to show you on this outer one while I torque it. I've just taken a pry bar, and if you mesh that up against one of the flat edges of the flange nuts, you can then hold that in place and then pry up against that metal here, so that way the nut can't move, and then we can actually torque it down and also get the other ones tightened. So if you have a rear bumper that's got that little metal tab cut out for each one of those bolts and you're having that same issue, instead of pulling the whole bumper off, just grab yourself a pry bar, wedge it in there so that the nut can't move, and then you should be all good to go. All right, so now at this point, our next step would be to deal with our wiring if you also have that factory wiring. If you don't, then you can add on a wiring kit. Obviously, that's going to be the next step when it comes to towing. So if you want to be able to tow that trailer, or if you have lights on maybe your bike rack or your cargo carrier, you're going to need to have at least a 4-pole at minimum, just so you can transfer those light signals. If you are towing a trailer that has brakes, you'll need a 7-way. With ours today, we had to pick up a specific style. This is that US car style plate here. So this is the mounting bracket. It's going to fit this. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't match up with the holes on here, because the mounting bracket that they're intending for you to use here is like a aftermarket 7-way or a 4-pole little bracket that's just like an L shape that's going to sit right on here. So in our case, we would need to actually drill this out, put some new holes not only in this little tab, but also in our bracket that's going to match up, so that way we can bolt this through. Now, since this is a test fit and this isn't going to be staying on our neighbor's car today, I'm not going to do that, but I just wanted to show you guys that so that way you could see it. On our next one that we're going to do, that one will actually be getting the wiring, because that one's going to stay on. So check out the Tow Smart video as well. You can see if that hitch is going to be the better option for you. Now, once you get each one of those 4 bolts torqued, that is going to do it for our look at and installation of the Blue Ox Trailer Hitch receiver here on our 2025 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited. My name's Kevin. If you still have some questions about what's going to be the right trailer hitch receiver, or you just need help getting some of the other components needed to make that journey happen for you at home, please feel free to reach out to us via our Ask the Experts link, a comment on this video, or a phone call to our customer service department, and we'd be happy to help you out on your journey.